Introducing the JK Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the JK Podcast. We are here, number 18, and it's been about a week. Sorry that I've been a little bit absent on the episodes, but we're back. We have a ton of episodes this weekend, and we are here with our first one. Mighty Brad is here. Mighty Brad, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. I checked out your podcast. You do a lot of stuff. What I realized, you're drumming, you're doing interviews, all that. How's that been going?
It's well, man. I do the podcast and solo videos and shorts mainly around, self-improvement, relationships, spirituality, similar to your content. And then also the drumming stuff. I've been drumming for like 5, 6 years. So I figured, you know what, why not put that stuff up there, see if people enjoy it. And everything seems to be going pretty well so far. So that's how it's going.
Awesome. Yeah, I've always been interested in you might have a similar experience with me here, but I've always been interested in like doing podcast stuff and self-improvement stuff because just because I just love talking about it. Because what I realize is that there's not many people out there that are actually interested in talking about this stuff, about talking about, fitness, about spirituality, mentally. Because some people will feel like, oh, it's a little awkward to talk about that stuff. I don't know. It's a little out of my comfort zone. But how do you feel about, kind of talking and having those conversations?
Dude, it's honestly one of my favorite parts of being alive. Because, I lived my life for a while. I went through depression a few years ago, and the self-improvement stuff really helped me get out of that stuff and the spirituality stuff. And so, I really enjoy, meeting new people and having people have different perspectives. Having people on my show and like, all right, someone's Catholic, someone's a monk, all these different spiritual and religious beliefs, different philosophies, all this stuff. And it's like, you know, it's I love the conversations where you're genuinely going somewhere with it. It's not just small talk, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course. But, having a conversation with someone and actually achieving something and, realizing, okay, listen to this person and we had a good conversation. They said something I never heard before and I can actually apply that to my life. And it's like, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've realized. And I mean, I've seen so much other content as well, besides of podcasts on like TikTok and Instagram that have been like something I've never heard before or something I've never thought of. So I really like the social media feel with all of that because sure it has its down effects. It has some bad stuff on there as well, but if you find the stuff that is actually giving you people's experiences, that is the most important thing because people's experiences like will literally help you get to where you want to go because they might say something that you've never heard before. So yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting to talk with so many different people that have so many different experiences, and it's really interesting to see where they came from to get to where they are now. So yeah, it's a really interesting field to be in.
Yeah, I always try to go into conversations with people. I don't remember who the quote's by, but I mention it all the time. Go into every single conversation with anyone you meet, assuming that they know something that you do not. Because and not 100% of the time, it's going to be true. Even if, you meet someone you might disagree on certain things or, you guys haven't really talked much, it's like they know something that you don't. So if you talk less and listen more, then you're gonna learn something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so many people don't realize that like they're a lot of people just have this ego that like, oh, I know everything. I can't. What am I going to learn from this person? And they'll put themselves above that person because they're maybe better at a particular skill. It's like it's every single person has a similar experience, and no matter where they are in life, that experience of their life is going to help you. And I really like that message from many other people because you know, you when you go into challenges, when you face these obstacles that you come up with, and if you get the learning experience from someone else that has faced that challenge, you know what to do. So that's one of the most important parts about learning from these people from their experiences is you use their information and put that to your tool belt and then you face that challenge. It's really important.
Yeah, and the thing with the when we have the big egos and think we know everything, it's never true. Like you might be, like you said, a little bit more advanced at a specific skill or a knowledge in a certain field, but nobody on this planet is ever going to know everything. There's way too much information for us to get even close, not even close to 1% of all the information in the world. And, and the mentality you have to go in with is, if you are that person with the big ego and you think you know everything, you're going to go throughout life and you're not going to grow because you're going to be like, all right, everything I know now is just the way I'm going to live my life. There's nothing to improve upon, which essentially is a lie because we all have our faults. We all have insecurities. We all have things that we can work on. And if we go into conversation with an open mind, we can really grow.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. And I really encourage people because it's weird. It's a weird stance and a weird way to talk with people about these certain things, as I mentioned. And I really encourage people to just like get out of that like comfort zone of talking about, oh, did you see the game tomorrow? Or are you ready for the game? Are you ready for the game tomorrow? Like stuff like that. Like sure, it's fine conversation, but when you're talking about more meaningful stuff, you're gonna have a better connection to that person, especially.
Right. And it's and sometimes I think not everybody wants to talk about that stuff. So sometimes when you meet new people, it could be a little bit difficult sometimes to, ease into those conversations.
Yeah.
And some people will just look at you weird. But, if you try it, the amount of people that I've met that, just starting a conversation about, spirituality or, a certain topic around that, it's like how many connections I've made and how many friendships I have now it's literally insane. If
Yeah.
you choose to put yourself out there, and of course it's not that easy. I came from a place, a few years ago of not being able to talk to anyone essentially. I was, in my shell and very shy. But once I was able to, work on the social skills a little bit and build myself up so that I was confident enough to, talk and meet new people and network with people, it's changed my life, and I think it can change everyone's life.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think a lot of people need to get themselves into conversations like that, and there's always someone to talk to about that certain stuff, like parents and friends and family. It's really important to have those conversations because it expands your mind, really, really far. I think it's not a quote, but I remember there was something I saw on social media where someone said that common people will have conversations about just daily stuff that's happening around them, like events and certain things. But highly intelligent people, people that are driven, have conversations about, making money or going to the gym or succeeding. All this stuff that those people have conversations like that, those are the people that are driven to get there compared to people that aren't really interested in talking about that stuff. So you can really tell if a person is driven or not because of what they're interested in talking about. If they're interested in talking about just basic stuff like, oh, are you ready for the test tomorrow? I mean, like, sure, it's a conversation that you're having with that person. You're still growing a bond with them, but you are not getting the experience that they have, and you're not really growing your mindset with them. That person is not as driven, they're more focused on other things. So it's those conversations help you realize what a person is like actually focused on completely.
Right. Yeah. I think the thing is, you can talk about, oh, uh, we're having that test tomorrow. You can talk about that with anybody, right? And
Hmm.
everyone's going to give you the same answer,
Yeah.
or at least they're virtually similar one. But, if you ask people about what they think life is about, what they want out of their life, it's like everyone's got a different story. And,
Yeah.
social media has kind of painted this thing of like, all right, you need to make $10 million, and you need to have 10 supercars, you need to have every girl in the world, and it's like, that stuff is a little bit skewed some people's mindsets, but and so some people are like, oh, a lot of people are like, oh, I need that. But all in all, you talk to different people about these different topics, and everyone gives you a different answer. And learn again, going back to it, you learn something new about yourself and about life. And you can have these conversations and explain your view, and they explain theirs, and they say something, and they say something that might be a difference in opinion than yours, but you genuinely hear them out, and you're like, huh, I actually agree with that. And now your mindset on something, or your concept or belief on a specific topic changes because you had that conversation. You went in with an open mind.
Hmm. I totally agree. Yeah, it's an important part just to have those conversations with people in your life and especially close ones as well. I'm interested because a lot of people, are more. shy about that kind of stuff, mainly because they have not a very positive mindset. They're more in their own head a lot. Like a lot of people will be afraid about getting in that conversation because they're so worried about what's going on in their brain they can't even like process having a conversation about it. It's trapped in them. They can't let it out. They just don't feel like they can. What do you think causes people to have that negative mindset?
I think a lot of it is social norms. It's
Mm,
like, most people, especially in your teenagers, like a lot of people put on a mask. They try to act a certain way. They try to fit in and not be, because everyone's unique, right? Everyone has
yeah,
their desires, their beliefs on certain things, their passions. Everyone's different in that sense, right? But we go out and we go throughout high school and stuff, and it's like, everyone seems like they're the same person. Everyone's saying the same phrases, talking about the same stuff, and it's like everyone's trying to mask their true selves because it's like you want to fit in, right? And, that's a natural human tendency, but it prevents you from people really knowing who you are. And
yeah,
I think social norms have a huge deal to do with that, and cultural conditioning from schooling and your parents and from all these different outside sources, right? That create programs and your subconscious mind, and so you believe these certain things about yourself or what you can and you can't say. But the example I like to give is, you're so worried about, what everyone else is going to think and if they're going to agree with me if I say this, or they're going to think I'm weird. At the end of the day, most people don't really care that much. And I mean that in the sense of, like, let's say I like to give the example of, you're in a mall, right? It's a crowded mall today, and you're walking and you trip and you fall. And so you get up and you're like, you feel super embarrassed. You're like, oh, everyone's looking at me. You realize maybe out of the 500 people that are next to you, maybe five of them look at you. And guess what? Even if someone laughs, I guarantee you, 15 seconds later, they're going to forget about it and they're going to move on with their life because everyone's so caught up in their life and everything that's going on. Nobody really cares about you. So in those moments when you're so embarrassed or you think people care so much, it's like, no. And when you put yourself out there and talk about the things that you want to talk about with, you give people the opportunity to make a connection with you. Some people won't, right? Some people won't be receptive to that type of conversation and what you believe in, right? But if you make the effort, then the chances of you meeting someone that is similar to you or likes talking to you about that stuff is so much more high because you don't put in any effort. Most of the time, you're not going to be walking in a public place and someone's just going to come up to you and start talking about it. You got to be that person to initiate that. And
yeah.
that's that I think can, and in working on that skill can really help people elevate their lives and get themselves improve their mindset and become more confident in um breaking that cultural conditioning of I can say this, I can't say that.
Yeah, social norms really put a hold on people because they feel like they have to say certain things. Like they have a script and they have to follow that script to actually say the right thing. And everyone's focused on that thing. Like, I have to say the right thing right now. Like, if you get asked a question in school or the teacher picks on you, you're like, I need to say something. I need to say the right thing. So it's this really, really like hard mindset that everyone has that they need to say everything perfectly to fit in with everything. And what I've realized in, in school, in other places as well, is that a lot of social norms are made in, I don't know if hierarchy is the right word, but if you have, for example, if we have a really popular person in school, super popular, and they start wearing this tie-dye shirt or something, and now everyone who's friends with that person sees that person is gonna want to follow that because, oh my gosh, that guy's so cool, I have to wear a tie-dye shirt now because I want to look cool. There's this social norm of people that are leading this and making people, or not making people, but people want to fit in any way they can to have what that person has. So, doing what they can to do, they're going to change themselves. I've seen this all the time in high school that a lot of people change who they really are and act differently completely from when they are at home. They act completely different when they're at school and with people around them.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a huge thing. It's like they're two different people, right? It's
Yeah.
one's real and one's not, and the one that is real isn't being portrayed in public most of the time. And I think there's two sides of that. Like I was having a conversation with one of my buddies, and he was talking about how when he's a little bit younger, where he grew up, and he had this mentality of he has to act like he's gangsta, and he's from the hood and stuff like that. He has to act, he has to act that way, right? And then when he went to school, he would act that way, and then when he came home, he wouldn't turn it off, and he would still act like that. And then he eventually got to a point in his life where he's like, there's like a fight within himself of like, this isn't really how I truly act as my unique self. So why am I doing this to try to fit in? And then that's where the time came when he was able to change. And it's the really difficult thing about that is it's like if you put on a mask every time you go in public, people are never going to know the real you. And so you're going to feel more alone than you would even if you feel as though you fit in, because you have these deep desires within yourself of, I believe this, I enjoy talking about this. I want to have these experiences with these people, but, you know, those people that you're talking to are interested in something else. And since they're more popular than you feel as though you need to fit in and talk about whatever they're talking about, even though you don't really care about it. And so, the point I always like to make is, people will never know who you are, and especially in romantic relationships, if you like a girl, right, for whatever reason, but she has different interests in you. Maybe it's the thing she's most passionate about, you really don't give a shit about at all, right? But since you're trying to get her to like you, you're gonna ask her all the questions about that. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, I love doing that. I love that. I love looking at that and researching about that. And then maybe, and she's gonna figure you out one time or another. It might be the next day, it might be the next week, or it might be 5 years down the line. And if it's 5 years down the line and you guys are in a relationship, then she's eventually going to realize and be like, I can't believe you don't actually care about me and all this. And then it's going to be all for nothing.
Yeah, that's spot on. That's hilarious. Yeah. That's true. That's very true. That a lot of people will kind of just lie their way to get what they want in a way and pretend, act like, "Oh, I really care. Yeah, I totally care about what you're talking about." They don't. They just want, to have that reward of, in this case, having that particular person in their life. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see how a lot of people have these social norms and are used to just like putting themselves to kind of fit in, to just put themselves in the group. And another thing is that the people that don't do that, I feel like those people get the most attention because they're away from the herd. They're not in that group. They're not focused. They don't really care about that stuff. They're just doing their own thing. Like they're not chasing people. They're not chasing girls. They're not chasing all this stuff. They are just, doing them. They're being themselves. And I think that's those people that are just being themselves and are focused on just improving the things about them solely are the ones that excel completely.
Yeah, I found the most success in, multiple areas of my life when I decided that I was just going to be myself. And, the people that like that are, they're in my life. And the people that don't like that, that's an indicator that you guys aren't right to be in each other's lives, right? And, I actually made a video the other day of titled, You Think Being Different is Bad. And I explained the situation of like, all right, let's say you're in a new environment and you're meeting, maybe you move to a new town or a new city or a new wherever, right? And you meet 10 different people, right? And a few of those people might seem like you're talking about the same stuff or whatever, but one or two of those people, they seem like they're a little bit different. They got a little mystery to them. They're passionate about this. They're creative in this area. And so those two people are the ones you really resonate with. And those two people are the ones you really like. Why? Because they're different. If you're meeting the same person in a different body, it's like, well, I could be friends with this person. I don't have to be friends with all 10 of them because they're the same person and we're only talking about the same stuff. But, those few people that are a little bit different and have a different life path, it's like, wow, I want to get to know them. They're kind of interesting. Like I've had that experience where, those types of people that I meet that are doing something a little bit different. Those are the people I want to talk to.
Hmm. I totally agree. Yeah, for me, I've moved around a ton, and when I came here, I think it was well this year, I recently moved back to Utah and started going to high school again, and it was a weird thing because I'm back in high school doing all this again. I'm not really like used to it. I'm like, I'm like, where am I? You know, what's going on? So it's a total different environment. And I didn't really, I was fairly quiet because I didn't know anyone. I wasn't really trying to talk with people. I was just kind of doing my own thing. And it's interesting because once you're kind of just doing your own thing, a lot of people are actually interested in moving into your life because they want to know you. And that's the cool thing about, just focusing on yourself is that, a lot of people will enter your life, but you don't have to chase the people in order for them to come into your life. So it's there's a big phrase, that I've heard that, if you don't chase butterflies or something. I'm gonna butcher the quote completely, but don't chase butterflies. Build a garden and they will come to you or something. It's around those lines, because if you're focused on yourself, if you're focused on improving yourself, the rewards and the recognition will naturally come. But if you're seeking it, it won't. That's it's just how it is.
Right. Yeah. No. It's a lot of the time good to work on yourself and then let people, see that you're helping yourself and your life is improving. And because you're gonna be the most lonely if you are that person who is only doing things to try and fit in, because you're gonna be neglecting yourself and what your true self is. So like you just said, the most important thing, work on yourself, and that's when those people flow into your life, because energetically people pick up on that. People can see that you're not depressed anymore. Your life isn't real. You're not that shy kid anymore. You're actually they might not know what you're doing, but they know you energetically, and they feel that you're doing something. So then that will then provoke the interest of like, oh, I want to talk to this guy because I want to figure out what he's doing. He's a year ago I saw him and he's just the kid who never talks to anyone. Now he's the most outgoing guy ever. It's like, what happened to him? I want to know. So yeah, that's really important too. And the other thing is, not necessarily telling everybody what you're doing, because not everybody is going to support you. You could be really passionate or starting something new, and you tell a few people, and they're like, "Oh, nice man, but did you think about how you could fail in this area, and you're not really good about this?" And then for a lot of people, when they're starting something new, it's like they're going to be like a little bit discouraged and like, "Oh, like no one else is supporting me. This is annoying." But
Mhm.
it's important to build up that confidence in yourself that whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. And sometimes it's not always bad to tell people about what you're doing, not always, but some of the stuff, I think, some stuff you're doing, just keep to yourself, make the progress, and people will see it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people need to just, it's hard to just say like be confident, because not many people know how to be confident, because like they're not at that point. And I've talked with so many people before, and they've always been like how do I become a confident person? How do I, stand out in the crowd? How do I do that? And my opinion, there's many different answers to that question, but to me, I think that the answer is just being, active and being productive for yourself, where you become proud of yourself. Because I believe if you're proud of yourself and you're happy with yourself and you love yourself overall, you're going to be a confident person, because you don't care about what everyone else says, and you're just going to be naturally confident. You don't just, become confident in the click of a button. It doesn't work like that. It requires a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and once you dedicate yourself to that, you will become more proud of yourself, and that builds confidence. That's how I perceive it. How do you think people become a more confident person?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes practice with certain aspects. Like for example, what we were talking about before about the building confidence. Talk to new people. Like
Yeah.
just little social interactions will help with that. And just not even having an end goal of like, oh, I want to get this person's number, or I want to talk to them more. Just like being in line somewhere and just being like, hey, how are you, man? Or hey, how are you, to a girl, and just answer that, and then work up the conversation to then you know maybe getting someone's contact information. But yeah, I like the point that you said about, it's like, I'm losing my train of thought.
You're
Damn.
good.
Oh yeah, no, being able to be proud of yourself
Yeah.
is a big indicator. I like what you said about that, to be more confident. Because if you're working on your craft and you're doing what you genuinely like to do and you're accomplishing something, that's going to apply to other areas of your life. Because if you're neglecting yourself and you're going out and you're partying all the time, it's like when you're out, it's going to be in the back of your mind like, oh, I know I should get this done. I know I should work on this thing that I'm passionate about. But if you're doing your stuff and you're accomplishing stuff, those times where you decide you have the time to go out and whether it's you enjoy partying or just hanging out with your friends, it's like you won't have to be in that situation and think, oh, I should be getting this done. It's like, all right, I'm in this situation and I can fully enjoy this present moment, and we can just have a good time. So maybe we are going to talk about some deep stuff, maybe we're just going to have some laughs and stuff, and you have the downtime to do that, and you're not going to feel as though you need to be doing something else. Because I know that's something I have dealt with a lot, is like, someone asked me to go hang out with them or go out with everyone. I'm like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, wait, I was going to get this done tonight, but now I'm not going to be able to. So it's like when I'm out, I'm like, damn, I need to get that done. But, there's a happy medium, and in discovering and distinguishing when you have the time to do that, and what you want for yourself. Because if you're going out all the time partying and that's it, and only hanging out with people, so you're not going to be able to have the chance to work on yourself. So if you can incorporate both into your life, that's ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And something I've realized, especially with, just becoming your confidence thing, because everyone wants to be confident, everyone wants to be confident with themselves, is that there's so many different narratives to it. You hear a lot about, you know, villain arc and being cold and heartless and don't talk to the and don't even say a word. All this stoicism, philosophies, all this stuff, and you hear all about it. And I, in some aspects I agree. I don't think you should do villain arc because I think that's the whole thing. But like, stoicism. When people talk about stoicism, I think someone who's open to accepting pain and to being uncomfortable, but being comfortable with being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. And someone who is just focused on improving themselves and using the wording or the phrase, which I personally love, is it is what it is. Just accepting what you can't control is I think stoicism is a great thing. However, a lot of people get it flipped and think that I can't say a word ever again, and I'm never going to talk to people because I need to be quiet. People get this whole false narrative of how they're supposed to act, or how a confident person is supposed to act. They're focused on how a person is supposed to act, but not how to become that person. So it's really interesting to see how people get that flipped.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That's what I say to myself all the time, because it's if you're gonna there's so many things that happen to you in your life that might be perceived as out of your control, right? So if you're complaining about all those little things, how can you get everywhere if you're, sitting down all day just thinking, ah, my life is horrible, blah blah blah. But if you shifted your mindset a little bit to like, all right, my life is bad, but like, what can I research and what can I look at so that it doesn't have to be bad anymore? That's the mindset shift, because so many of us are sitting in the we're sulking in the depression and in the, okay, my life's bad. And then there's this other side of it, is what it is. My life is bad. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. And that's just, it's not true, because there's always something you can do. As long I believe that, some people have it more difficult than others, but as long as you're alive, like you got a chance to do something, man.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. There's many things that most things are I don't know about most, but there's a lot of things that are in your control. And if that's going to the gym, I hear a lot of people make so many excuses about going to the gym because they'll be like, "Oh, I don't have a gym membership. Oh, I don't have equipment. Oh, I don't I need to find a diet. I need to find a fitness trainer." You don't. You really don't, because you're just telling yourself that you need all of this stuff to get it done. You don't. I've not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I started this podcast from my phone through an app, and I haven't spent a single dollar on this podcast because I am passionate about doing it, but I know that I don't need all of this stuff. I could get a fancy camera. I can hire editors. I can do that if I wanted to. But, I've accepted the fact with, just kind of going with what I have and just being happy with actually the stuff I have to do this certain stuff. If you want to go work out, you have a floor. And David Goggins says this. He says that if you want to work out, you have a floor. Like, do you have a floor? Do push-ups. There you go. There's so many excuses people make, and they literally have everything they need. They just need to use their resources, but instead of just looking for more.
Yeah, the hardest thing is to start because it's like, like that example you gave before of like, oh, I don't have the weights, I don't have a gym membership, I need to find a trainer, I also need to count all my calories and all this different stuff. It's like you can figure that stuff out along the way, and some of that stuff you don't even necessarily need, but you just need to start, right? Taking the first step into that gym, into that building, that is the first step. And once you're in there, you learn from there. One thing I realize is, we all know, there's some people, a very small proportion of people at the gym who are neglectful and they don't want to talk to anyone. And if you go up to them, they give you an attitude, right? But I found that the majority of people in there, like if let's say you're just starting working out and you're really skinny and you want to build muscle, or you're overweight and you want to lose weight, like if you go in there and like someone's doing an exercise, you're like, hey, I'm new here, blah blah blah. I was wondering if you could help me out. Most people are going to be glad to
Oh
show
yeah.
you how to do it. Like, yeah, man, sure. This is how I do this. Some people do it like this, and like and then you learn, right? And it's a positive experience from everyone because not only are you learning how to do the exercises and improving your own life, but you might have just made a new connection with somebody.
Yeah. That's something with the gym as well, is that everyone thinks that like everyone's rude all the time. And I see all the stuff on social media. I've seen it all the time where like um I don't know his name. There's this guy on TikTok that'll like shout people, or not shout people out, but like criticize people because they're not being kind at the gym. I think his name is like Joey or something. Joey something. I don't remember. I wish I could find it. But he finds all these videos of people that are being rude at the gym or being disrespectful, and a lot of them, like some people will say like, or look at a girl for like 1 second, and then she'll make a whole fuss of it and post it on TikTok. And there's this a lot of people see that on media, and they'll be like, I'm not going to the gym. Jeez, look at this. It's like a war zone. It's not like that. It's like 99% of it. It's not like that. There's this 1% majority or minority of just people that are like that. It's a very, very kind place. A lot of the people that I met at the gym when I used to, because I have a gym in my house now, but when I used to go to like a public gym, the people are so kind. They're like some of the most nice people that you could possibly meet. So it's really important to just kind of get your narrative like shift, and just like not like focus on what the media is presenting to you. I think that your experiences can help you determine what certain things are.
Yeah, and it's like, when you step into the gym and you're working out, it's like a lot of the other people, like they're doing the same thing. Like you're
Yeah.
going in there to improve yourself, and they're also going in there to improve yourself. So there you go. If you're not that's one thing that you can relate to somebody about, right? If you working on your social skills a little bit, if you're a little bit shy, going up to someone, building up the confidence to just walk up to someone and be like, "Hey, if somebody, is bigger than you or looks good or whatever," and you're like, "Hey, you look like you got a lot of muscle. When did you start working out? This and that." And like they'll be glad. Most people will be glad to share their experience with you. Oh, I started here. I used to be overweight, but now I'm here, and I did all this different stuff. And you're like, oh, cool. Again, another connection.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to make those connections as well. Like if you have more relationships with people that are like-minded, it's super important. And that's another thing, since we already talked about like social norms and stuff, is that I say it all the time, and many people say it, is that the group you're with represent or kind of represents who you are as a person. The people that you want to be with are the people that you are related to or relate to the most. So when you see people all in these different groups, different mindsets and different things, you just kind of have to figure out what's best for you. And a lot of people are scared about leaving those groups because maybe they're in this, certain group and they're not very happy with it and they have a different mindset now. They want to be an entrepreneur and these people want to game all the time. Then you're going to change the group because that's not the like-minded people you want to be with anymore. So I think a lot of people get worried about doing that as well, just kind of leaving, groups and people. It's tough because you grew up with people, people, but when you shift and go to a different group, um, it can help you a lot. You make new people, you make new friends, you make new relationships with people. It's important.
Yeah, one of my buddies, Joseph, his Instagram and YouTube channel is Jotivational Speaking. We did a podcast together, and he made a really good point, and he said, your day ones aren't necessarily the right ones. We have this perception of like, oh, I grew up with them, so it's like I need to spend every single day with them. But if you guys are, going on different life paths, and he's doing this and you're doing this, and it's completely different stuff. It's like you don't have to completely cut them off as a friend. I'm not saying that, but you guys can't hang out every day anymore because you're both going to get distracted from your goals because you're on different paths.
Yeah.
So it's really important to find those like-minded individuals that you can connect and grow with, and build your little tribe and your new circle of you guys actually helping each other.
Yeah.
My best friend, he's going to a college, and I visited there and met a few of his buddies, and we just created like a Snapchat group chat of like five to 10 of us, only posting, self-improvement stuff and, helping each other out with that. And it's like, that you build a little tribe like that, man, you guys can hold each other accountable, really, really make some stuff happen.
Yeah. It's cool, man, as well to get in those groups of people that are like-minded like you because you see them grow with you. You see them, make efforts and grow with you. Like for me, I have some friends back where I used to live in Lake Tahoe, and one of my friends he just started doing like merch stuff, like clothing brand stuff. And I was like, that's super cool. This dude is doing this now. And in the past, I remember we would just be playing Fortnite all the time. It's cool to watch people grow from this to this, and it's interesting to see how other people, work on different projects to advance themselves. People here now that I know, they have this like drive to just like they want to get what they want. They have all these desires to be rich and to have all this stuff, assets, Rolexes, fast cars, all this stuff. And, to be with like-minded people like that, they push you even farther as well. And if you have someone that's pushing you farther, you're going to excel completely.
Right. And I think, and like you said, you guys used to just play Fortnite and stuff together, but now he changed his mindset and he's working on this. And it's like, I think a lot of people in society have this perception of that people cannot change. And
Yeah.
there might be a lot of people that you meet that won't change, right? They'll stay the same person, stay in the same place. But a lot of people, they can change. And
Oh yeah.
you can't, if you had an experience with someone 5 years ago and you're still holding a grudge against them, they might be the same person, but they could be a completely different person. So you're comparing that experience that you had with them, that negative experience, to somebody that does not even exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really true. A lot of people, I think most people change because most people don't just stay the same, for the rest of their lives. Like, I'm not going to be playing Fortnite for the rest of my life. I don't plan to do that when I'm 80, but, people change. It's important to realize that people change, their emotions change, their motives, and it's cool to see that because you see just people grow up with you. And yeah, I think a lot of people, and especially this is kind of off topic a little bit, but a lot of people that, especially like myself, I find this with myself as well, is that people are so motivated to get what they want, but they're kind of scared about it because they're worried that they can't reach that goal or that they're not putting in enough work. And there was my most recent podcast, which I had these two brothers on. They said that the people that are driven, the people that are successful, are worried about how much effort they're actually putting in, and they're saying, "I'm not working hard enough." But the people that aren't really driven, they're kind of fine the way they are. They desire all this stuff, but they're not putting in the work to get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you just gotta realize, like, a lot of us we just want the $10 million handed to us, or
Oh,
we just suddenly want to be confident. It's like, you gotta do some work for it. And there's also, there's what you said also made me think of, something called imposter syndrome, where, you start to
yes.
gain a little bit success in this area. Maybe you're making a little bit more money. Maybe your um, social skills are evolving and stuff like that. And, because of the limiting beliefs that you had before, you still ask yourself, do I, like, I'm getting better and things seem to be going better, but do I deserve this?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing that, a lot of people deal with, especially, rich people and, big creators. It's like, I built this following and all this stuff, but it's like I used to be, that shy kid, and I used to not. It's
Yeah.
like, do I deserve this? And, it's something that needs to be essentially eliminated, because yes, you put in the work, you do deserve it.
Yeah. I honestly think I'm not like full on imposter syndrome, but I feel like I can have that sometimes. Like it's super weird because everyone still has that child self. Everyone still has that person. Like behind every like huge fitness guy or huge jack guy is a very skinny or very fat person because they used to live like that. And once they're actually where they want to be, they're like, I'm actually here, what's going on? And they feel like they're still their old self. I feel that sometimes because I'll feel like I go to the gym very consistently, and I'll feel like, oh, I'm not lifting like much weight at all. Like I'm not lifting anything close to what other people are lifting. So, that imposter syndrome people have, I think, comes from, social norms as well as comparison, because that puts us in that state completely.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of situations in my life where it's like, oh, I'm not lifting that much weight. I was able to do a little bit more before, but I took a little bit of a break, so now I'm not doing as much. And it's like, oh, I'm not doing enough. And, it's like you got to realize that, everyone's on a different journey, right? That guy who is incredibly jacked and, has your dream body, maybe he took steroids, probably not, but he probably has been working out for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, right? And you walked in the gym a week ago. How can you compare yourself to him?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The comparison is a really evil thing in my opinion. It's important to kind of compare your I think it's important to compare yourself to your old self because that shows your growth. Like once you look at your old self and you're like, "Damn, I used to look like that." And then now you're at this different point. You're like, "Wow, this is incredible." So, comparing yourself to yourself, I think is fine. But if you're comparing yourself to someone who is, maybe 10 years older than you, has more experience than you, has more experience in that field when you have even started. Like you're just working against yourself. You're fighting against yourself. You're just putting yourself down for no reason. That person got there for a particular reason because they put in the work. And if you put in the work, you're going to get there as well. It's very simple.
Yeah, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. And, looking at who we were yesterday or 2 years ago and all the progress we made to where we are now, we might not be at the final destination that we eventually want to be at, but you can look at yourself now and look at yourself back then. It's like, all right, I actually have made a lot of progress. And, I think it's important to celebrate the small wins, because if you're only celebrating that long-term goal, it's like, the journey is going to be a lot more difficult along the way, because you're absolutely never rewarding yourself and you never feel good enough unless you get to that final destination. But, what you're going to realize, that's why everyone says enjoy the journey, because if you're not enjoying the journey and you get to the destination, it's going to be like, all right, well, I'm here now, but like it took 10 years of misery to get here. So like, was it
Yeah.
worth it?
Yeah, exactly. It's very difficult as well because a lot of the rewards and desires we seek come from uncomfortable places. And once you reach that uncomfort, once you reach that dark place that just, whatever it is, if you're trying to, build a body, build a masculine body or whatever, a physical, or just build a good physique, you have to hit leg day like tons of times. You have to do all this stuff. It's suffering. It's very hard, and it's not like you're not gonna be like, oh, this is great, I'm just gonna do this and then I'm gonna be happy. Look at this. It doesn't work like that. It takes so much effort to achieve what you want. And that's the hardest part, is because people don't want to be uncomfortable and they don't want to even remember the uncomfortable parts. So they block it in their brain. And then once they actually reach the thing and they put in all this uncomfortable work, they just don't even remember how they even got there. They just don't even remember what they did to get there. So it's important to, embrace kind of the uncomfortableness of certain things and just enjoy the journey. Even if it's hard, you're still working to fulfill your passion, fulfill your purpose.
Yeah, and listen, you got to realize that, like time moves fast. Like every year it's my birthday. I look back and I'm like, I do not feel like it's been a year. So life moves fast, man. And if you think about what you're gonna do tomorrow, and I'm finally gonna go to the gym. I'm finally gonna work to increase my mental health and incorporate this habit and change this in my life and get that new job. It's like if you keep telling yourself that, you know, years are going to go by and you're never going to get anything done. But once you take that first step, everything rolls from there. But
Yeah.
the most important thing is taking the first step, because if you don't take the first step, then you're going to wake up and you're going to be 90 and you're going to be like, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't appreciate the days as well. Like, you know, for many people, especially if you're not in like not really putting in a ton of work per day, because I feel like the people that put in a lot of work per day, sure it's tough, sure it's difficult, sure it's uncomfortable, but once you're at the end of the day, once you're about to go to bed, you feel very accomplished and you remember that day. You might remember that day a couple maybe weeks, maybe a couple days after. You remember it. But when you're not doing that stuff, when you're maybe just on the couch for 7 hours watching TV or on your phone, you're not going to remember that. I'm sure a lot of people don't remember what they even ate 2 days ago because, they just, it's not there because people don't really use that time in their day to for it to be significant in their lives. So, appreciating the days, and if you're putting in a ton of work, a ton of effort, you're going to appreciate it regardless because you are putting in the work to get where you want, and you're appreciating the journey while you're going.
Yeah, no, those small things, and being grateful for everything, because and sometimes it's difficult. Like when I first started, on like this journey, it's like, I'm trying to be grateful for things, but sometimes I don't always feel that way. But it's important to be grateful for the small things. Like even like you walking up your stairs, like you could be someone who doesn't have any legs. Either
Yeah.
you were born without them or something happened to you, or all these little things like fingers. Some people don't have an arm, right? And it's like, be appreciating these little things that bring those little moments of joy to your life, because you can easily go throughout every single day and be like, all right, I eat, and I shower, and I work, and
Autopilot.
I hang out with my friends, and it's just like, all right, like I just do it, right? If you really make the conscious effort to be present in every single one of those activities, like you'll realize, like when you're eating, you'll be eating and you'll take a step back and you'll be like I exist right now, and like I'm doing this action,
Yeah.
right? And it's those little things where when you can develop yourself to look at things in that light, it makes the little things more joyful and not as mundane.
Why do you think people kind of don't really appreciate those things though? Because, I think it's just there's just so much like they can't even experience it because those people are experiencing it, right?
It's a really good question. I think we don't appreciate it because it's like life become like we get to a certain, like when we're a child, we're told we can do anything we want. We're so much more creative. But once we get to a certain age, people tell us that's not possible anymore. You have to work this job and you have to do this because it's secure. And you
Yeah.
get to this point of like, all right, well, this is just how life is. And it's easy. It's easy to, let everything set in and just, go throughout life, kind of sleepwalking and just being like, all right, I'm doing this every day. It's just the same thing. But realizing that you have the opportunity to change certain things and incorporate this other habit into your life for 15 minutes, and that's another thing. It's like, I don't have time. But
Yeah.
nobody has time, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has to do things, whether they're in school, whether they're working, whatever it is, right? But I guarantee basically every single person, you can look at probably at least two, three, four habits in your life that you can minimize or completely eradicate and replace them with something that's better. Like if like people will say I have no time, but you scroll on TikTok for 3 hours a day. It's like, all right, I'm not saying completely eliminate TikTok. You could look at like maybe minimize it to like 15, 20 minutes, right? And
Yeah.
take that 3 hours. Imagine we go to the gym for an hour, meditate for 15 minutes, read for 30. You can get so much done within 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so, changing your mindset and realizing like it's not that I don't have time, it's that my priorities aren't right. And you can easily still scroll on TikTok and get all those other stuff done because when you're scrolling on TikTok for 3 hours, is that really a habit that you enjoy in your life? Or do you sit there for 3 hours and then you eventually get to the end and you're like, well, where did the time go? And I know times that I scroll on my phone for like 20, 30 minutes. I never feel good after. I look back and I'm like, what have I been doing, right? So it's like, replacing those habits that you don't even really enjoy deep down, just kind of addiction and something you just have in place that you do every day, making the conscious effort to change those things your life will get so much better.
Yeah, that's so true. Is that there's so much stuff that people just find themselves distracted by when they know that they're going to be happier doing something else that is more productive. For me, in my past, I played so much video games that I am very disappointed in my old self because I could have been using that time to build so much other things, work on so many different projects. I would be so much farther than where I am today. And it's important to kind of, the best way to go about it is just, I like to write down stuff. You can write down all the stuff that you think is wasting your time and eliminate it. Like, social media is so addicting. It's one of the most, I think it's like one of the most addicting things that most people have. Possibly, this might be a hard take, but might be more addictive than other things, and you might spend more time on it than doing drugs, for example. Like, it is so addicting and people don't realize it. But if what I've tried to do, and sure, sometimes I'll find myself in the habit of scrolling, and it happens because you just like, your brain is automatically used to that. But the best way to do it, and what I've been doing, is that I delete Instagram and TikTok, and then when I need to post something for social media, I'll re-download it and then delete it again because I can just log in again. And I'll find myself when I do that, I'll find myself, oh, I can just leave it, it's fine. And once you do that, you get caught in scrolling because you're about to post or something, and then you start scrolling, and you're like, what the hell just happened? I wasn't even supposed to be doing this. So just kind of figuring out what's limiting you, and it's tough because you don't want to go to that place and confront yourself with that stuff, but once you find it out, like, you will literally increase your productivity and find so much more time that you could be doing some other stuff. You'll be doing all these activities when you are used to be scrolling, and you'll have like 5 hours left of your day, and you're like, oh my god, look at all this time. What else do I want to do? So it's important to do that and just kind of limit your addictions and limit to what's holding you back.
Right. And yeah, what you said about, the video game stuff and not being proud of your old self, like I can relate to that. Like I used to only play video games and do nothing else with my, I go to school, I'd come home, I play video games and that's it, right?
Yeah.
And I can look back and I do wish I spent that time doing other stuff, but it comes I think it comes to a point where we have to realize that like, it's like what's happened has happened. I can look back and say, "Oh, I wish I started my YouTube channel. I wish I started my podcast, 4 or 5 years ago when I started the self improvement stuff, right? Like I wish, right?
Yeah.
But it comes to a point where you're like, you know what? Like it is what it is. I did what I did, and we're here right now in this moment. And there's like I can't change the past. I can only change what happens right now and in the future. So let me be grateful that I even started this because you and me both, we could look back and our lives could be different now. We could still be that person who only plays video games, doesn't do
Yeah.
anything else. But you and I both got to that point in our lives where we actually started the podcast. But we could right now, you being your age and me being my age and being on this exact day, there's another lifetime out there, another reality where we're still doing that old habit and we never started the podcast.
100%. That's very spot on. Yeah, I never really thought about it like that. Is that, out there, you could just been doing the same thing. You could have just been doing the exact same thing for such a long time, and you might not have had the same amount of time that I'm doing right, or the stuff that I'm doing right now. It's important to realize that. And that's a great way to look at it, I have to say, is to just realize like you could have been doing this instead of that. And it's difficult for people to think about that because everyone's so used to thinking negatively compared to thinking positively. And everyone thinks about, oh, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish I invested in Bitcoin, way back when. I would have been incredibly wealthy. But hey, you can't. It's in the past. You can't change the past at all. And it's important to realize that the past is just the past. Leave it and focus on the present because the present is the most important part of everything. Is just being present.
Yeah, because so much of our unnecessary suffering comes from, looking back at the path and at the past and, thinking, I wish I did this. Like you can sit in your room for an hour or 2 hours or just lay in bed at night and wish, oh, I did this. But it's like, you're not there anymore. Like
Yeah.
hopefully you're at a place where whatever that is that you wish you did, hopefully you can still find a way to do it now, right? And you got to realize that it's not the end. Like I could have looked back and been like, oh, I wish I'd started this 5 years ago, and then still sitting here now and like, oh, I wish I started it, not realizing that I can just start it right now and
Yeah.
tomorrow. Like what is holding me back?
Exactly. Yeah, it's very true. And yeah, to the people, just if you want to like get to where you want to go, just start and, just ignore the voices because everyone has that voice, that negative voice or voices that I'm not crazy, I don't have schizophrenia, trust me, but like if you have those voices that are just saying like oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you don't have time to do that. Oh, you have all these voices that are telling you just ignore them and, focus with what you have a passion for because for me, I've wanted to start content like this, but I was afraid of doing it because I was worried about people in my life that I actually know seeing it. And it's kind of cool now because once I'm doing it, people in my life are actually talking about it because they like it. So it's cool because it's really not as bad as you think. It's really not as bad because if you want to start something, it's not as bad as you think. Your brain just makes it so much worse than what it actually is.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for all of the future events. Like I might like to make the example of like, all right, let's say you have an event a week from now that you're anxious about today and you think about it tomorrow and every day leading up to that you're just anxious, oh, what if this happens? And then you get to that place, you get to that event, and 5 minutes into it, you consciously realize to yourself, huh, this isn't so bad at all. And so you
Exactly.
wasted all that time of unnecessary suffering of being anxious about, oh, this is going to happen. And most of that stuff that you were thinking about, those negative outcomes, the chance of them even happening was like 1%.
It's like jumping into a pool. It's like when you put your foot or your hand in the water, you feel how cold it is, and you're like, I don't want to do that. But once you jump in, it's so much fun. It's so much nicer than you think, and it's not as bad. So yeah, our brains really make it the worst part. Our brains, honestly, like the stuff that you think about in the certain situations that your brain like says like, oh, you're not gonna do this. This is what's gonna happen to you, and it's a bad scenario, and it's embarrassing, whatever it is. But once you do it, like the thoughts that your brain had, that's the worst part. That's literally it. That's the worst situations that you've had. So it's very true.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, Bradley, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. And I want to let you have, the opportunity if you want to shout out anything, use socials, anything, any last message for the people.
Yeah, of course. So you guys can check out my YouTube. It's Mighty Brad. And Instagram is Bradley, BRADLEY underscore glance, GLANTZ. And, that's where I post all the drumming stuff, all the self-improvement content, all the podcasts, all that type of stuff. So you guys can check that out there. And hey, thanks so much for having me on.
Absolute pleasure, man. And yeah, I hope I'll watch out for your podcast. And yeah, make sure you guys go check him out over there. And it's been a pleasure, man. And thank you. And to the people, we will see you once again, probably like literally tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you guys, and we'll see you later. Peace.